All right, Fintech South, welcome back. And it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Rodrigo Dantas. I'm a principal with EY, currently serving as the Americas Payments Leader based out of Atlanta here. Very happy to be here and to host these discussions, this great sessions with you today. If you're here with us in the morning, you know the drill, right? It's about things that matter, right? That was the choice that we at EY made when we wanted to decide which of the tracks we would want to be sponsoring this year. And definitely the morning sessions with retail and commerce were great. And now we are up to the sessions on payments innovation. Thrilling and very excited about it. Before we get into that, I also wanted to mention the other component of our actions around building a better working world, which is EY's purpose. So we truly believe in entrepreneurship as part of the element, the critical elements to promote development in the society and to help us build a better working world. And we've been engaged in many initiatives over the years about it. Actually, the Entrepreneur of the Year award is a 34-year investment that we make, a prize that we make, an organization that spans more than 50 countries all over the world. Many of the winners on the previous years are already here with us today and this week, and have been in the previous sessions as well. The other element of entrepreneurship and the other program that we've been investing to fulfill that purpose is actually something that we started about 12 years ago, which is the Winning Women program. Definitely, as the name says, focused on helping the development and speeding up the development of businesses that are led by women. And this year has triggered an additional need for us, right? In the way that we want to actually act and help fulfill our role as a company in the fight against racism. We found that doing something in the entrepreneurial world would be a good way to wage into that action, more than the conversation. And we are launching the Entrepreneur Access Network. So that is a program targeted to Black and Latinx-owned companies, where we will help these companies develop. Right? Basically, we have three major pillars of actions. The first would be an eco village, where we have incubators, organizations, alliances, where the company gets there, and then it's prepared to the next pillar, which are the growth drivers, where you actually network with other entrepreneurs that can potentially be alliances, can be your source of supplies, can be your customers, and that actually prepares you to the next pitch, which is the access to capital, actually. So all of those components are part of the Entrepreneur Access Network program, again, targeted to help the development of Black and Latinx-owned companies and entrepreneurs. If you want to know more about it, if you want to get your chance on participating in that program, go to our homepage here at the Fintech South in the Umbrella platform. You can click on the left-hand side on exhibitors. You get to the EY logo, click on that. Then you get to the EY virtual booth. And in there, you have the links to the documents. It explains everything about the program, how to access it, how to get to it. There's a video of my friend and colleague partner, Lee Henderson, that leads the program. You have all the information there. So please, if you're a Black or Latinx entrepreneur, go for it. We are very, very excited about that program. So coming back to our agenda here in the afternoon, payments innovation. Before I get into the agenda, Abel, please kick that video that tees up some of the major themes around it.
Just even the term radical growth is something that can scare people.
I think the scary part is, like, what's the thing we haven't thought of yet?
Fear can be a good motivator. It can get people actively aware and aggressive about looking at their future, but it can also create paralysis.
The challenge is seeing where the opportunity is and innovating faster than everybody else.
First of all, we have to be built for change.
One of the biggest challenges I have in running large business is trying to manage the existing cash flow and quarterly responsibilities that we feel, plus trying to make the investments necessary to anticipate where things are going.
It's not an easy equation, because you got to keep the lights on and you've got to keep a core business running while you're thinking about the possible disruptors or disruption that's coming your way.
And you have to start to ask the fundamental questions again.
Get out of your office, get out of your headquarters, get into a space where you're with such strikingly different people and in stunningly different places, where you're going to end up being so wrong and uncomfortable and forced to be quiet that a new question is going to pop out of nowhere. Boom!
It's really essential that an organization or a company sees itself as part of a wider ecosystem, that a lot of capability sits outside of their immediate organization. So people are no longer just looking vertically, but are in fact looking across the whole context in which they operate.
I love the idea of a dual strategy where you accept the idea that you have to run the business for current performance and meet your objectives of the business as it exists, but you always have to be aware that the business is evolving into something else if it wants to stay current or lead its market.
Enterprises everywhere are looking for help on how to enable, how to accelerate, how to become more digital, whatever that even means.
Because things are moving so much faster, if we get ourselves in that mindset of acceleration, I think the other question is, how do we balance the present and the future?
Separation of incremental innovation and radical innovation is really important, where the business units need to focus on innovations that are close to the core, that are adjacent. That's their responsibility. But for the most part, the traditional business units need to focus on the short-term profitability of the business that's going to produce revenue for us today.
Set aside a group of people with different priorities, different incentives, frankly, different type of skills, and let them play with disruptive technologies while most of your business units and most of your country teams and your brand managers are focusing on iterating on the current business.
That separation is important, different mindset, but also different talent. So bringing in people from the outside to help move those ideas forward in different ways using different methodologies has been very helpful.
Successful organizations learn both from top down and from down up.
Who you are and who you want to be can contort a bit and change and morph and evolve while still being true to the core business and the core brand.
All right, so this video was produced actually in the end of 2017 and tees up some of the very important questions that all of our businesses are facing in terms of the need for transformation and to accelerate growth. In the last 8 to 10 months with the pandemic, I believe this theme's just gotten even more important. I mean, things did not necessarily really change in terms of the themes that are available, but they got deeper and more important. So our afternoon, we're going to be discussing many of those things. So first, we'll start with AvidXchange, liberating account payables, one company at a time. The firm, Entrepreneur of the Year winner, but success story, fantastic. And after that, we'll have a panel talking about will real-time payments transform commerce. I have no doubt about it. Let's take a look at how. Then mobile payments are good for your health, the pandemic and the future of payments, very interesting one. Teeing up the discussion to the crystal ball, what's next in payments? And then we will end the day with innovation is underrated at Park Mobile, because parking is just starting point. So that's the agenda for the afternoon. With that, I'll call our first panelist, our first moderator, actually, Steve McLaughlin. Steve with FT Partners. The show is yours, my friend. Go for it. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Rodrigo. Thanks to E&Y for sponsoring this thing, and thanks to Fintech South. I think Mike Praeger should be on in a second here, but I believe I guess I'll kick it off. There's Mike. Okay, good. Perfect. Hey, Mike. Good to see you, buddy. First of all, just a little bit of background on myself, and then I'll do a little bit of Mike's and let Mike introduce himself. So this is Steve McLaughlin. I'm the founder, CEO, managing partner of an investment bank called Financial Technology Partners. We back entrepreneurs like Mike and others in building their businesses, helping them raise capital, helping them do M&A. We're a 180-person firm based in San Francisco, but with a big office in New York, London, and clients on every continent outside of Antarctica, that is. So, but anyway, I really am super proud and excited to have the audience get to know Mike Praeger a little bit. I've known Mike for well over a decade, started working with him about a decade ago. But, not only is Mike one of the best entrepreneurs that I've met in fintech, but he's one of the best people. And today I think we'll talk a little bit about the business and a bunch about the company and culture and really how to build something big. I met Mike when his company was, I think it was sub 10 million in revenue. Now it's in the, in the billions of value and the talk of the town in Charlotte. But anyway, so let me just take it back. Mike, just give us a bit of your background here. Just set the audience up. Where were you born? Where'd you come from? Who are you? And just give us a bit of background.
Yeah. So thanks, Steve and Rodrigo. Appreciate you having us today. So I'm a Midwest guy. I grew up in Wisconsin, and my entire high school class was going to University of Wisconsin. I said I had to do something different. Went to Georgetown, and that's when we competed aggressively with the Villanova group.
Villanova.
Yeah, exactly. But after Georgetown, I was a finance major. So Steve, like you, I was a finance guy. I was at Summit Partners to begin my career. Spent my first 3 years at Summit, and then left and ran a software company in Boston. And that was really kind of start of seeing how we can take kind of technology and apply it to very manual, paper-based process. In the case of our first company in Boston, it was around helping municipalities better process tax bills and the collection of tax payments. Had a chance to sell that business in '96 and then moved to Charlotte in search of a little bit better weather, better lifestyle. But that allowed us to start a second business in kind of '97 timeframe, which was part of the kind of the height of companies trying to find technology talents. We created a suite of web-based tools that allow companies to better automate their talent process, and we ended up selling that business to CareerShop in November of '99, which then was the catalyst to starting AvidXchange, and became aware of a very similar paper-intensive, people-intensive process called accounts payable. And I said, well, this is a playbook. We experienced this in, with the municipalities, same thing with hiring tech talent. Why don't we apply technology to the accounts payable area? And that's how we launched. And we spent the first 12 years focusing exclusively on how we eliminate paper and automate this business process for our client companies. And then a bunch of really, light bulbs went off in 2000, started happening in 2010. And what it was customers asking us, hey, we have the front end of our process now electronic with our invoices, but we're paying all these electronic invoices with paper checks. Can you help us with that? And at first, when we started hearing it, we said, well, that's not what we do. Maybe you should go talk to your bank because we don't do payments. And then we, said, listen, why can't we deliver this for our customers? And that led us to the creation of AvidPay and our payment network that we call the AvidPay network in 2012. And that was really part of the acceleration of our growth curve. We were always growing as a company, but our growth really accelerated in 2012. And on average, between 2012 and today, we've grown almost 40% a year during that period. And we look at kind of where we are today. We can describe ourselves as a software company that automates both the accounts payable and the payment side of the equation, but now also has a payment network for our supplier community. And one of the key features of our payment network is a tool called Cash Flow Manager. Allows our suppliers to be able to receive not only their payments, get their remittance data, but now also accelerate any eligible invoices for next day payment. So putting the power with the supplier in terms of when they get paid. And today we execute that ourselves. But at some point, Steve, I'm sure you'll help us move it off balance sheet. And, as that program continues to grow. But we are headquartered in Charlotte and have our campus at the Music Factory downtown where I am today. We have our West Coast Operations Center in Salt Lake City and supported by about 1,500 teammates today.
Mike, that's an incredible background history there. But take us back a little bit. You spent the first 9 or 10 years building up the software side of the business, and you had this light bulb go off with you and the clients talking. But I remember you talking about it, and it was like, hey, are we ever going to do this? Can we do this? How do we do this? Yeah. A lot of companies have optionality in their business models to do something very different, and this was a radical change for you guys. So talk about the process of doing that, and maybe this is a little bit of a lesson for entrepreneurs and innovate. Yeah.
I think, I call it kind of pivots. And I think, every business that I've been involved with that's been successful has had a series of pivots over their kind of existence. And for us, it started by understanding, listening to the customer and seeing why was the customer asking us to do certain things, and customers started asking us about payments. And at first, of course, we said, we don't have any experience with that. There's no one on our team that has experience with payments. But what we did is took the entrepreneur approach and try to understand the core or the root cause of the problem our customers were dealing with, and systematically started saying, okay, how do we apply technology to this problem to create a better experience? And I'll be the first one to say, like a lot of innovations, if you know too much about anything, you can talk yourself out of doing it because you're too aware of all the risks, all the challenges, all those type of things. I think with payments, we knew enough in terms of the value proposition. We probably didn't know too much that we talked ourselves out of not doing it. And I think like everything else, you need some conviction. And for me, the conviction is always that your customers want this, and we're increasing the value proposition to our customers. And that will lead me to the conviction. But I'll tell you, it was we're a small company at the time, so in order to deliver it, we literally had to take all our software off of our core product customers using today, and said we're not going to do any development for 6 to 9 months on our existing platform, and we're going to work on this new payment functionality that we don't know if it's going to work. We don't know really how it's going to be deployed. But that was a big bet at the time, and it took a lot of late night discussions, a lot of time with our board to have them buy into that strategic approach, or as I call it. I think what we also kind of lesson learned is that you really have to be transparent with your business and with your teammates on why we're doing what we're doing and what the future is going to look like because we're doing this. There's a lot of we have to believe in the future, but I think that's the role of an entrepreneur and really a leader, is that they can provide that future view for their team.
That's helpful, Mike. When you look at the whole world of U.S. commercial payments, you've got SMB, you've got mid-market, you've got upmarket, you've got probably umpteen verticals. You guys specifically chose that, what I think is the best part of that market, that middle market. And you've got a Bill.com down in the very, very smaller clients, and then you got like a Coupa and others up at the top end. Or, why that middle market, and maybe why have you guys dominated it? I can't even tell you honestly, who's the next player in the space. It's just you and nobody. So how did you guys pick that middle market? How are you different from the upper and the lower end? And how do you guys dominate so much?
Yeah, so I would say at the beginning was a combination of a little bit of of dumb luck and having a sense of the type of problem we're trying to solve. And what I mean by that is that we knew that in order to have somebody want to buy software at a reasonable amount, you have to be solving a big enough problem for them. So by nature, by solving a big enough problem, they had to have a scale or size that the problem was actually meaningful for them to solve. It turned out we got lucky with one of our first couple of customers being real estate companies who were middle market real estate companies and had a big enough problem. But one of the things that we like with middle market is middle market companies don't wake up and say, Steve, I'm a middle market company. They wake up and say, hey, I'm a real estate company that does multifamily real estate in Florida, and I want a solution that's particular to my business that integrates to my real estate multifamily accounting system. And middle market companies are very vertically focused in solutions that support their direct industry. And we found that to be, we like that approach because we like complexity. We like what we call messy industries, because we think that by applying technology, actually the value proposition is greater for those customers because their problem is growing. So we focused kind of one industry at a time. Today that we have, 5+ vertical markets that we focus directly, to solve as a direct sales approach. And then we have channels that we use to go more horizontally across the middle.
And how are you differentiated versus the SMB versus large Bill.com and Coupa? I mean,
So that's a great question, and because people ask us all the time. And what I think is really, the three leaders that emerged is Coupa, the enterprise side, is still early in their, their journey on the payments. And then you have, Bill.com, who's done, phenomenal as a new public company on the, small business, local business side. But, we're in the middle market, and some, characteristics of that, and the reasons why we all stay in our same swim lanes are that from a product feature standpoint, they're very different for different parts of the market. So, for example, enterprise customers have a deep, e-procurement sourcing foundation at the beginning of their business process, which Coupa does a nice job of managing. With small business, it's more of a consumer experience. So you want more of a consumer experience, not complexity in terms of business rules, easy to use. And then in the middle market, you have kind of a little bit of a combination of both from the standpoint of middle market customers typically, begin their business process either at the invoice or the purchase order, but don't necessarily have deep procurement requirements. But they do have what I'll say business rules on how they run their business, how they approve invoices that you have to manage. And then, take implementation. When you're, kind of the small business market, they want to be implemented in, minutes because it's a simplistic process. Coupa, maybe it'll take 6 to 9 months. AvidXchange is like 30 days. But I think the most telling, kind of stat in terms of where we all play in the market is the Bill.com's average revenue for a customer is in the $1,500 to $1,700 range. Coupa's, north of 400, 500,000 per customer, and at AvidXchange more in the 45,000 to 55,000 range. So I think that gives you a good sense of where the market for each focus.
That's helpful, Mike. Well, you guys have raised a bunch of money over the course of time, right? A little bit at the beginning, and you were pretty, I think,
we had some help doing it.
What's that? Yeah.
We had some help doing it.
A little bit of help doing it. But, you were kind of, I'd say, little, careful about it in the early days, but then you saw the opportunity sort of open itself up, and you really started getting the right investors in there with Bain Capital Ventures, with Matt Harris, and a whole bunch of other great people that are now make up your board in a couple different rounds. I mean, talk about that process and bringing on the right investors and at the right time, and how's a guy like Matt is just like known throughout the entire fintech space. Has done a great job, and it's been instrumental for you guys. And then later on, MasterCard, and maybe just walk us through that and what those have done for you.
I mean, I think, we were very intentional, and you helped, kind of coach and kind of guide us on this process, Steve, but very intentional at each stage of our evolution of the type of investors that we wanted to get involved. And so in 2015, when, we were roughly, kind of a $40 million business, and, at kind of the early stages of this massive opportunity we had in front of us, we wanted somebody that could provide a lot of value from, strategy and helping us kind of guide how we go about tackling this market. So Matt Harris and Bain Capital Ventures was a great partner to help us at that point in time in terms of being our first venture partner. That allowed us to bring in guys like Nigel Morris at QED, brought, deep, kind of operating expertise in terms of scalability of our business. Guys like Hans Morris, who's president of Visa. And it allowed us really to attract, what I'll say, the right, talent and the right capital at that stage. And then when we did our strategic round with MasterCard, not only was it strategic from the standpoint of MasterCard bringing in other bank partners like Fifth Third Bank and Key Bank and others, we were also then able to track what I'll say longer term capital like the CDPQs, the Public Pension Fund Managers of Canada, along with Temasek, which is more of kind of a longer term kind of capital base. And then most recently, when we're kind of now, clearly later stage thinking about, do we want to be a public company at some point, bringing in more of those kind of crossover investors that have experience in both late stage private and, public, like the, Franklin Templetons, Neuberger Bermans, some of the hedge funds like Lone Pine and Schoenfeld, Capital Group, as examples. Really were, the right partners at different stages of our evolution.
Yeah, no, it's been an incredible journey for you guys on that front. I know MasterCard has been a big part of you guys building out your payment hub. I was referring to it earlier about, how you guys have really differentiated in that middle market and why there isn't sort of a real number two out there.
Yeah.
How have you done that, and how has MasterCard helped with that? And this isn't a commercial for MasterCard or anything like that, but that was pretty evolutionary for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. One, I would say, it's super hard to do, and one of the things advantages that we've had is we've had time on our side. What I mean by that is, we're at this, since 2000, spent the first, 10 plus years just building out our software and all the integrations that support the middle market. I, somewhat, joke with, the Coupas and the Bill.coms of the world. They really have it easy from the standpoint of, Coupa has to integrate to SAP and Oracle. They really have the enterprise market. Bill.com, QuickBooks, and the majority of small business. Well, we're integrated to 180 plus different, ERP integrations, and we don't even have the whole market covered. So it gave us an advantage, that mode around accounting system integrations. But the other thing that MasterCard allowed us to do is invest heavily in building out our B2B network for the middle market. And certainly MasterCard is the ultimate network company. They saw what similar strategies did on the consumer side of the equation, and helped us, guide us, and encourage us to be aggressive in our investments on the B2B side, which now within 2012, so it's been 8 years, we have over 700,000 suppliers that are network, and it's been now a key differentiator because we go to any new customer, over 30% of their suppliers are already on our network. If we go to some of our industry verticals that are more densely populated, that number is 50-60% of our suppliers are already on the network. That gives us a phenomenal kind of leg up in terms of quickly monetizing transactions for our customers.
So would you say that's a network effect? Is that what you're saying? You got is that a big moat?
Yeah, I mean, as I kind of, my words for it are the flywheel, and I think we're starting to see that flywheel turning now in ways where over the first number of years, it was just a lot of investment, a lot of hard work to build both sides. But now that we're up to over 6,000 buyer customers using our software, supported by the 700,000 supplier customers, we're seeing that flywheel really start to turn, and each day, week, it's turning faster and faster. And then a great example of that is just it's part of probably the COVID impact, that we were enrolling on the network new suppliers who receive electronic payments. We were trying to get to 1,000 a week. We were just under that 850, 900 right when COVID happened. So our milestone was get to 1,000. Within 30 days, by the end of April, we're doing over 1,500, 1,600 per week. So we saw a significant lift, and I think it's a combination of not only COVID pieces, tailwinds, but also that network effect starting to take hold.
You hit on what was going to be my next set of questions around COVID, right? So talk maybe, sort of as a business, how has COVID impacted your business? I mean, you gave us a little snippet there, but I mean, nobody wants to be touching paper invoices and dealing with the postal service and all that kind of stuff. So paper's out, electronic is in, but has that really affected you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe you could start by, this is unique to AvidXchange, but everyone through, I'll say, kind of a pretty significant business test the end of March, in terms of people had to change how they execute their business almost overnight, right? People had to change their demand gen strategies overnight, and I think this is where it becomes leadership really is important. Having the right people in the team is important to be able to then kind of quickly continue to execute for customers in a new world that is very different than what anyone ever anticipated. And so with that, obviously we transitioned to kind of a full work from home to continue to support our customers. But what we saw with customers were two things happening. One is sales cycles being accelerated, and then once they become a customer, rather than waiting 30 days or 45 days to get implemented, they're like, can we get implemented this week? So that created some real opportunities in terms of how we get customers live faster. And there's nothing like a lot of innovation happens when it has to happen, right? And certainly that worked for us, and we figured out ways to get customers live faster than we ever thought we would. And then so I'll say increasing acceleration of new customers, becoming customers, acceleration of new customers going live, and then on the supplier side, as I was talking about, a significant acceleration of suppliers that use this paper check that says, like in the current world, I can't wait for the U.S. Postal Service to deliver a paper check. We saw average mail times increase from 5 to 7 days. And by the way, when they're delivering the mail, it's usually at the office, and there's no one at the office to receive the mail. So there was all kinds of really good catalysts built in that I think are here to stay, Steve. I mean, I think, it's not something that, people are going to forget about, what their business continuity plans are, next year. I think this is kind of a perfect catalyst for people to say, we have to have an electronic process in how we pay our bills, because we just can't send people home with, laser printers to print for payments on the dining room table. That doesn't work.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And Mike, I guess we're probably 3 or 4 minutes out here. So let's shift the gears a little bit. I mean, you guys could have sold the company probably every year you've ever been in existence. You're turning people away. Why? How big can this business become? Why haven't you sold? Why are you going for it?
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are in the catbird seat, but like, how big can it be?
Yeah, I mean, so we're, I get asked, the question, a lot about, Mike, you've been doing this for a while, how much longer do you keep doing this? And I'm like, I'm having more fun now than I've ever had. Like the first 10 years were the hard years. Now, this is the fun and exciting, time of our growth existence. But we're, use a baseball analogy. We're probably the bottom of the packet, maybe going to the top of the third. It's, we're very early in this overall cycle. And I think, the next 5 years is going to be, more probably exciting than the last 15 have been. And I think, what really gets, our team excited when we see the impact that we have for our client companies, especially COVID has put a real lens over that, a magnified lens in terms of just the impact that we're having to our customers, and to be able to say, how can we do this on a bigger scale? And so I think, how we're going to, continue to evolve. We'll add 1,000 new logos this year, and 990 of those will be greenfield. So we haven't got to the point yet of, customers looking for a better solution that have already been automated by some other provider, right? The majority are still greenfield. Majority, 60, 70% of U.S. companies in the middle market are still processing paper invoices, paper checks. And we could be more excited about what, the next 10 years can be. And we think we can build a really big business. And it certainly would be a multi-billion-dollar revenue opportunity for us in the coming years.
Mike, last question. You had a lot of entrepreneurs and folks on the phone here. To me, you guys have one of the most unique, greatest cultures of any of the clients and companies that I know. And I know you drive that. But what advice would you give to CEOs that are at the helm of growing companies and just a little bit of magic, the 60, 90-second secret sauce?
Yeah, but first of all, it's hard and it's not easy. And the faster you grow, the harder it is. But what we learned is, back to get started, with very Mike-centric culture, just like you, Steve, at FT, with Steve-centric, right? And but what I'm saying is that what I've learned is you actually have to teach your culture to teammates. And culture actually is a living, breathing, organism. It's it grows, and as you add different types of leadership to your team, it kind of morphs. But I think your job as a leader is to always, help shape it to the culture that you want to be. We define that as we call it the Avid DNA. It starts with our core values. Our number one core value is that we're passionate about customer success, and we know that there's 3 mindsets that we have that we want all teammates to have across the business, and one is a growth mindset, not only identifying how the business grows, but how they grow individually as a teammate. And then the second one is around what I'll say, being customer centric, and being focused on how we're delivering for our customer, whether you're in finance, engineering, or on the front line of sales. And then the last one I call better together, and that is, it used to be early on that that you could get a lot of things done at AvidXchange individually. That doesn't happen anymore. It's very cross-functional, collaboration. You have to work across teams, and so be able to work across the organization better together is the third mindset. And those are kind of key to how we recruit talent into the business, as well as what we teach for people to be successful.
Well, Mike, I think we're out of time. That was an incredible tour de force of AvidXchange, one of my favorite companies, and Mike, one of my favorite people. And thank you for doing this today. And I think we're out of time unless there's any questions or what have you. But thank you.
You're a terrific moderator, and always happy chatting with you. And thanks for your help over the years.
My pleasure, Mike. Take care.